Thank you, Mr. Matenga, for allowing this opportunity to have a discussion with you regarding the Ndarama wallet. So, just briefly, can you tell us about your background and how you come up with this idea of a Ndarama wallet?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. So, how the idea for the Ndarama wallet came about was around about 2022. I had this idea of using blockchain to fund small scale miners by getting people to pull together funds and then go and buy gold from Makorokoza, use that, take that gold to, and then sell it to Fidelity. And then the 4% difference between what you buy from Makorokoza and what you sell to Fidelity would have been the profit that was split with with the people who had pulled their money. So we approached the RBZ initially, um, and asked them if we could actually do this. And then they told us to talk to Fidelity. We then spoke to Fidelity, and then initially Fidelity liked the idea. Um, and then they told us to go back to the RBZ, and then suddenly Fidelity changed their mind, of which they then wrote us a letter that quoted the Gold Act. So they said that gold is a reserved asset, so meaning that we couldn't then go through the program. But in the letter that the Reserve Bank wrote us, they said that you can, there's nothing stopping you from doing this in other sectors of the economy, which is how we ended up pivoting to property. So the name itself, Ndarama, is gold. It's the background starts from the idea starting with gold, but we then pivoted to property, um, and we then started thinking about what else we could do. So can we do this with solar? Can we use blockchain for agricultural investments as well? And that's how the idea started to grow. So fast forward a couple of years, we then built the so I built the blockchain, the smart contracts that we use, and we also started to realize a couple of things that if a person is buying a small piece of property, a fraction of a property, they should have the same rights as a full property owner, meaning that can they use that small section of the property as collateral to obtain a loan? Should they also not be able to sell this quickly on the secondary market? And that's how the project started evolving and growing. So we were also very lucky because we then approached Sexum, and during the journey, a lot of people had told us that this will never work. It's crypto. It's whatnot, whatnot. And we then approached Sexum. So we took a regulator first approach. So we didn't want to launch onto the market, and then approach the regulator and say, we've got customer systems already working. And we approached Sexum, and luckily enough, the Sexum already had a sandbox for new products. So it took quite a while, back and forth, almost 9 months, I think, before they actually accepted what we're doing, because we were able to explain that Ndarama is not crypto, so it's not Bitcoin, it's not Ethereum or anything like that. The value of the token is in a real world asset. It's attached to a property. So then in October, I think it was October 2025, I think. Yeah, October 2025 is when they actually granted us the license to operate Zimbabwe's first blockchain investment platform. And then in April 2026, the 20th of April, is when we actually went live and started getting our first investors in a project in Chitungi, Zelenzi, Greylands. So building a three-bedroom house there, and on completion of the project, when the house is sold, the profits from the build will be distributed to the investors. So we're looking at about 24% return on investment if everything goes according to plan.
Your token is linked to mobile systems such as EcoCash.
Yes.
So, how are you managing the risk of fraud, cyber attacks, asset devaluation disputes, especially in the market where digital financial literacy is still low?
Okay. So thank you very much. That's a very good question. I really appreciate it because um, we need to explain why this is a secure system. So there are three layers of security. The first layer of security is the regulator, which is SECSA. The second layer of security is a company called Creston Zimbabwe. They're the trustees. And the third layer of security is the blockchain. So to explain how the blockchain works is quite simple. Think of the blockchain as a ledger, but everyone has a copy of that ledger. So if someone decides that they want to change information on that ledger or delete, you have to go to every person's ledger and delete that piece of information for all the ledgers to match. So that's what they call consensus in the blockchain. So that's why data that's saved on the blockchain is immutable and it can't be fraudulently added. Now, the second layer being Creston Zimbabwe. So Creston Zimbabwe is the trustee. Now, what happens is that with our system, so there's some interesting IP that we built on the platform. Your typical uh, blockchain wallet, you need to understand how blockchain works. And blockchain wallets are very, very complex, and you need to buy crypto to be able to use them. But we've abstracted that completely, so anyone can actually just log on, register, and you're already operating on the blockchain without the complexity of MetaMask wallets and whatnot, whatnot. So it's part of the IP that we built. Now, um, with Creston Zimbabwe as the trustee, right? Isusu as Ndarama, we don't touch any funds. We don't. None of the money goes through our account. So what happens is that when you make an investment using Pay Now and EcoCash to buy those property tokens, what happens is that the money goes into a trust account that is controlled by Creston, not Ndarama. So Creston holds that money, and then Creston then does what they need to do with the money. If it's to pay investors or to fund the building of the project or whatever, they're the ones who are responsible for that as the trustee. So that's the next layer of security. Then, apart from that, SECSM monitors. We have to report to SECSM weekly what we are doing, how many people have invested, what's going on, and that sort of thing, because they need to protect the investors as well. So you've got the investor funds being protected by Creston, by the blockchain, and also by SECSM. With respect to a question of potential fraud, so I could give you an example of what could actually happen when people do this the incorrect way. Let's just say someone can say that, look, we've got a project and there's 50,000 tokens that you can invest in this project. And then and people are investing, they add another 10,000 tokens, right? And sell those tokens to a bunch of other people. With the blockchain, you can't do that. Once we set put there's 50,000 tokens for sale available, we cannot then create 10,000 more tokens. We'll have to create a new project. And again, all of this is publicly accessible on the blockchain. You can actually check on the blockchain equity how many tokens are available for this project and so on and so forth and whatnot. So these are the security factors that prevent that. We are the first in the world that converts your tokens to fiat.
Okay.
So it allows you to use that property token and get your money and get your loan in fiat, so in US dollars from EcoCash or into your bank account. So that one is world first. So there's a slight difference. So what we are trying to do at Ndarama is that we know ourselves. We know that we are a tech platform, right? We're not a bank. We're not anything funny like that. So for that sort of liquidity, what we're trying to do is we're trying to partner up with MFIs and banks, so that the MFIs and banks can reach out to more customers, because they then know that this collateral is already pre-checked. It already exists. The title deeds are being held by Creston Zimbabwe, and and the KYC and everything has been done. So a customer just selects which MFI is offering the better rate for a loan. So the exciting thing about programmable collateral, excuse me, is that it reduces the costs of borrowing, because now there's no need for branch networks, collections offices, um, legal fees, and that sort of thing, because it's programmed in the sense that uh, once you default, and you've reached that 90 days, you fail to pay for 90 days, the token is transferred to the lender immediately. So in terms of liquidity, an MFI can just come onto our platform and deploy money for people to actually borrow using the collateral that the tokens that they've invested in.
Okay. Are there any banks that you are currently looking to talk to?
There's a couple of people that we're talking to. There's nothing concrete at the moment, so obviously I can't mention. There's one or two MFIs. Again, these are just talks. But obviously, because we've been in operation for just roughly about a month now, a lot of people are taking the wait and see approach to see how it currently goes. But we were starting to have some interesting conversations.
Okay. Um, Zimbabwe is a bit complex when it comes to borrowing costs.
Mhm.
And your platform says it is going to reduce by 50 to 65%.
I understand. Okay, so for any MFI to work with us, they have to be able to reduce their costs. So you can't just come in and then just say that, look, we don't care about what you're talking about. We're going to put 240% APR or whatever. At minimum, you have to be able to reduce it by half, because the thing is, you'll be able to actually deploy more money onto the platform, and we've de-risked your borrowers as well. So there's no reason why you need to have those high borrowing fees, because you don't even have to even worry about collection. And when a person defaults, those tokens are coming to you as the lender. You can recycle them onto the secondary market and sell them quickly, which is different to a bank, for example, lending against someone's property. It could take you, almost 2 years to sell that property. So we're making it very, very quick and easy for them to access people that they were never able to access before. So people who don't have pay slips, who don't have bank accounts and that sort of thing, all of a sudden now become a target market for these banks, and they're already pre-qualified as well with pre-qualified collateral. So there's no excuse to then keep with high rates.
So, how do you then prevent an unsophisticated retail investor from taking on a risk?
Mhm. So we're trying to do a lot of user education. I think in the future we're going to introduce a bit of AI as well that will help people make good investment decisions. So there's always going to be that risk that an unsophisticated person comes in. But if you go onto our platform, onto our website, we're very, very upfront about what we're doing, upfront about our costs, and upfront about what we don't do. So interestingly enough, I get like a lot of questions on the company WhatsApp group. Sorry, not WhatsApp group. Sorry, the company WhatsApp channel, where people inquire and stuff like that. And one of the inquiries is, people think that this is some sort of like forex trading or Bitcoin trading, and you get someone coming and saying, "Guti, you know, what is my return on investment? Is it going to be 200% after 2 weeks?" And like, no, 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 look, it doesn't work like that. This is a proper regulated investment platform. There is also going to be some risk. You might even make a loss, and we don't guarantee that you can make a profit. Yes, you're investing in property, and property generally goes up, but something could happen, and the property could devalue. So we try our best to make our users aware that this is not a 100% foolproof, guaranteed profit investment platform. If you want that sort of thing, then you might need to maybe start looking for those, my triple M or something like that. Where good luck to you.
From what you are saying, you're arguing that Ndarama is designed for people excluded from traditional banking system, lending from former workers. So, my question to you is, who takes on the risk?
So again, we're just a platform,
Mhm.
right? So as with anything, there's always going to be risk. So if some sort of shock happens, right, and people default, what's just going to happen is just the tokens automatically transfer to the lender. The lender is now sitting on a bunch of tokens, which they then have to decide whether are they going to hold on to these tokens, or are they going to recycle them onto the secondary market. Now, if let's just say that it's an economic shock that's happened or whatever, but the tokens that they're holding are tokens that generate income. So maybe they're generating income from rentals, for example. So it's a property that generates rentals, and they're getting a share of the rentals. They quite, they can hold on to those tokens. If it was, say, energy tokens for a solar project that generates income from the electricity that's sold to ZETDC, for example, then the lender can be quite comfortable during that situation to hold them and then release them when the economy bounces back or whatever. So I think it's a win-win scenario all the way. So the borrower for the borrower, it's great because they don't lose their investment position. And the main thing for us is that because we're trying to be financially inclusive, one thing we realized, and this is from my own personal experience, is that making the decision of having to either invest or survive is, it's a really crappy decision. So people should be able to invest, but not have their money tied up. Putting that $100, into property, for example, but then it's tied up for the next 6 years. What if you have an emergency, Mangwana? You need electricity, you need to buy groceries or whatever. So you should be able to borrow against that investment, not lose your investment position, pay back, and keep your investment position. So it's a win-win for both parties.
So what measures have you put in place to attract both local and foreign investors to come and purchase these tokens?
So again, that's a very good question, and we are there's something that we're working on. Like I said, we're talking to one or two banks and stuff like that to try and attract the diaspora customers. So we have got a lot of inquiries from people outside of Zimbabwe, UK, Australia, some in America, because they see this as a good way to turn remittances into direct investments, right? So again, because we're a tech platform, we'd rather partner up with someone who can provide the necessary route for people outside the country to actually start investing in local projects as well. So there's something that we're kind of working on at the moment. I don't want to go into too many details, but we want to create like an investment product so that even when these guys come home from the diaspora, they've at least got like a local account that where their returns are coming in and that sort of thing. And also, if you need to help out family back home, you've got an account that can sort those things out. But it's exciting times.
Ndarama has now come live. Can you break it down? How is it performing?
Mhm.
And there's a few past days that is
Yeah.
what I like.
So we've been running for about a month, and we've been growing organically at the moment. So we've got over 90 registered users. At the moment, there's about 24 people who've actually actively invested. And the investments, it's about $136. I haven't checked the latest thing this morning, right? So what's been happening is that people have been testing small amounts, $1, $2, $5, to see if the platform works. We also understand that because we're also promising that people can invest from $1, and people have had their fingers burnt as well. You don't want to come in just yet and then find out that this was like another creator
Yeah,
scam or
creators.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the average investment at the moment is around is about $6, I think, is what people have been putting in. So we haven't actually started marketing properly because there's a couple of things that we were finishing off testing while people are starting to register, and we also haven't launched the secondary market and the P2P loans yet. But as of next week, I think we should be introducing the campaign, the marketing campaign. The other thing is that because we're in the sandbox, we need permission from the regulator. The regulator has to look at our marketing campaign first before we launch it, because they need to make sure that we're not misleading customers as well. So this is part and parcel of being in the sandbox and the pain of being a startup. We have to ask for permission for everything, but it's important to protect the investor first as well. So we don't mind it, but I'm sure like once we start opening up the secondary market and then also doing a proper campaign, I think it's going to shoot.
Okay, can you take us through what's your outlook is going to be looking like? Let's say 3 to 4 months. How is it going to be looking?
So the goal is that 3 to 4 months from now, we should have finished the that initial project, the Greylands project, built it and sold it. We've already got qualified buyers, so now the issue is just building it and then selling the property. After that, we are hoping to then exit the sandbox and then get a full CIS license, Collective Investment Scheme license. And then we'll actually now be able to operate, because that now allows us to do all sorts of different projects. So agricultural investments, energy investments. I mean, our aim is to get Zimbabweans to participate in sectors of the economy that they've never been able to participate in, because of financial constraints or and whatnot. But we want to like break that down. A good example that I can give is, I don't know if you've heard of the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, or GERD. So the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is a massive dam that was built on the Nile River. It was commissioned recently, and I think the cost of building the dam was 5 billion US dollars. But the Ethiopian government didn't get any donor funding or anything from to build that dam. It was funded by local Ethiopians and diaspora Ethiopians all together, putting money together. So it also gives like a sense of ownership, which is our dam ready, and stuff like that. We want to be able to get into government infrastructure programs. Like if they're building a road, Zimbabweans must be able to invest in that road, get returns from the toll gate. Like so, that is how road and take get involved in the economy. So that's our dream.
Okay, so beyond the sandbox, like you said, what's the expansion plan?
Mhm.
Do you target to go regional?
Oh yes. We definitely want to go regional. That is the ultimate goal. So I think the one thing that people don't realize about blockchain and smart contracts is that you only have to deploy a smart contract once, and it covers the whole globe basically. Um, so the same smart contract that people use when they join Ndarama to borrow money, or to use it to take their tokens as collateral, is the same sort of smart contract that would work in South Africa. What I mean by that is that one day, if we're able to go regional, right, you should be able to buy property tokens from South Africa and from Zambia while you're sitting in Zimbabwe. And then, if you decide that you want to borrow money against those tokens, you should be able to decide that, am I going to borrow from a local bank, CBZ bank, or should I borrow from FNB in South Africa? Maybe FNB South Africa is giving better rates, or should I borrow from the Zambian bank? Or while you're sitting here in Zimbabwe, and our smart contracts allow for that. If if we had the regional licenses, um, for the regulated equivalent of Sexum in Zambia, South Africa, Botswana, and whatnot. If we had the licenses right now, we could actually do that tomorrow. It wouldn't be an issue. But we know it's a long journey, and this is something that maybe in the next 5 years we'll do. But that is the goal, where you can actually do sort of like a banking arbitrage, where you can decide that, what, let me borrow from this bank, let me use my property in South Africa to borrow from this bank because I can get a better rate, and it then makes for an integrated SADC economy.
Okay, so you intend to tokenize sectors such as agriculture, energy, um, construction, road. So, which asset classes are you prioritizing at this initial stage?
So at this initial stage, we're prioritizing property. One, because Zimbabweans understand property very well. We love to build. We want to get onto that property ownership journey, but we're just constrained by finances. The barrier to entry is so high for you to start owning property. So we want to reduce that. So right now it is property, and that is what we're doing in the sandbox. Beyond the sandbox, the way we look at it is that um, any you see, anything can be tokenized, basically. The most important thing is that return on investment. And the thing that we've noticed this past month from when we launched is that, look, your customers don't care about, yeah, mukushandisa blockchain technology, or you're using witchcraft to get my return on investment. I don't care what you're using. I just want my return on investment. So if something can give a return on investment, it can be tokenized.